I was standing right there, just a few feet away, sipping my coffee, when I saw it happen. This frail, elderly woman, clearly in her late 70s, was walking out of the local bank branch, her purse clutched tight. And then, out of nowhere, a guy tall, hooded, and moving with a terrifying quickness, slammed into her. Before I could even drop my coffee, he had a hand on her throat and the glint of a dark pistol pressed right against her temple. He ripped her purse away. The shock wasn't just in the violence, but in the blatant audacity of it. Broad daylight on a busy street. But here's the twist. The roar of engines was already approaching, and what happened next was a blur of chrome, leather, and instant, unadulterated street justice that changed my perspective on everything. Was I wrong for the sick sense of satisfaction I felt watching a criminal get what he deserved, not from the police, but from a group of men society usually labels as outlaws? Tell me, would you have done the same thing or just stood there and waited for the cops? Let me start from the beginning. My name is Alex, and this whole nightmare unfolded about 2 years ago on a Tuesday afternoon. I was on my lunch break, enjoying the rare sunshine and my usual overpriced iced latte outside a small cafe situated directly across from a major bank. I'm a programmer, which means my world is usually sterile, logical, and safe. Violence and drama are things that happen on a screen, not 3 feet away from my artisanal pastry. The elderly woman, who I later learned was named Mrs. Albright, was a familiar sight. She was one of those sweet neighborhood figures who always had a smile and a little wave. On this particular day, she looked a little unsteady, walking slowly. I remember thinking how vulnerable she looked. The perpetrator, a man I'll call Hoodie, was initially just another person loitering, but as soon as Mrs. Albright cleared the automatic doors, his entire posture changed. He moved from casual to predatory in a split second. The sickening thud as he shoved her against the brick wall echoes in my mind even now. I was frozen. My phone was in my pocket, and the thought of dialing 911 was completely overwhelmed by the fear that if I moved, I'd become his next target. I was paralyzed watching this terror unfold, feeling completely useless. Hoodie was shouting, but it was muffled, just a hateful buzz, and then he pulled out the gun. That's when my blood ran cold. He had the purse, and he began to back away, keeping the gun trained on the now sobbing Mrs. Albright. He was halfway across the pavement when the sound started. It wasn't the noise of a single car or a truck. It was the collective, rumbling thunder of perhaps 10 or 12 massive motorcycle engines. They were rounding the corner, a group of leather-clad men on Harleys, their bikes gleaming. They were loud, imposing, and completely unavoidable. I saw the lead biker, a huge man with a beard and a patch vest, turn his head, and his eyes, shielded by dark glasses, zeroed in on the scene. A man with a gun, an elderly woman crying on ground, and a purse being clutched by the mugger. He didn't even slow down, so that's the situation I was in. I was watching a violent crime climax, feeling utterly helpless, and suddenly this force of nature arrived on the scene. I had to make a choice. Do I try to intervene, which is suicide, or do I rely on these bikers? Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have been the hero or the terrified spectator hoping for a miracle? Put your thoughts in the comments right now before you hear the stunning conclusion. The moment the lead biker saw what was happening, it was like watching a movie scene where the hero suddenly gets an adrenaline rush. He didn't say a word. He just veered his heavy bike sharply toward Hoodie, who was now running into the street, trying to make his escape. The biker didn't hit him, but he cut him off completely, forcing Hoodie to stop dead in his tracks. The rest of the pack followed suit, forming a semicircle, effectively trapping the gunman against the bank wall. The roar of the engines became an oppressive, deafening wall of sound. Hoodie, panicked, raised the gun at the first biker. That's when the second biker in line, without even taking off his helmet, performed a move that I still can't believe I witnessed. He kicked his foot out, not a light tap, but a full-force, heavy, booted strike that hit Hoodie's hand. The gun flew high into the air, spinning end over end, and landed with a clatter far away on the pavement. The lead biker, who had dismounted with surprising speed for a man his size, was on him instantly. He didn't draw a weapon. He didn't shout a warning, he just delivered a single, brutal punch. A closed fist that connected with Hoodie's jaw with a sickening, wet crack. The mugger dropped like a sack of rocks. The whole thing, from the bikers turning the corner to the mugger being unconscious on the ground, took maybe 15 seconds. The silence afterward was even more profound than the engine noise. The lead biker, I'm calling him Grizzly in my head, simply retrieved Mrs. Albright's purse, walked over to her, and knelt down. He spoke softly, his voice a deep rumble that was startlingly gentle, checking to see if she was okay. He handed her the purse, and she just stared at him, tears streaming down her face, unable to speak. The other bikers were already calling the police, standing guard over the still, unconscious criminal. When the police finally arrived, the bikers were cooperative, gave brief, efficient statements, and were gone just as quickly as they arrived, disappearing into a coordinated, powerful roar down the street. Mrs. Albright was taken care of by the paramedics, shaken but physically okay. The mugger was arrested, and later, I read in the local paper, he was a repeat offender. I gave my statement, still buzzing with a mix of fear and awe. I never saw the bikers again, but I often think about that moment of raw, uncompromising justice. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't by the book, but for Mrs. Albright and for me it was salvation. It taught me that sometimes the heroes don't wear capes or badges sometimes. They wear leather and ride iron horses. I often think about the irony of it all. I was judging those men based on their appearance, dismissing them as a nuisance, only for them to turn out to be the only ones who stepped up when true evil showed its face. That day taught me a hard lesson about jumping to conclusions, and a powerful one about the nature of courage. Justice was swift, brutal, and utterly satisfying to witness. Like this video if you were on my side and think that Hoodie got exactly what he deserved. Subscribe for more true stories about shocking moments of street justice and everyday drama, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did these bikers go too far, or did they do the right thing? I'll see you all in the next story.